Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to give everybody a minute to log on. And while we are doing that, we are going to go ahead and ask a couple of poll questions. All right, looks like we have poll answers still being contributed and folks still joining. So we'll give it just another minute or two before we get started. All right, it looks like answers are starting to slow down just a little bit. So I will go ahead and share these poll results. It looks like we have a crowd of folks who've been with the university for various amounts of time. So good representation from new folks who've been here less than a year, and also folks who've been here for 1 to 2 years, 3 to 5, and 5 plus. So thank you everybody for joining us. And we also asked about barriers to clinical research recruitment. So thank you for sharing your answers with us. And I will go ahead and close that out and get our PowerPoint up and get started so you can hear from our fantastic panelists today. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Awesome.
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Kylie. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We are very excited to have our fantastic 3 community panelists with us, as well as all of our wonderful CU Anschutz community. So this is a clinical research recruitment program workshop series event. This one is titled A Conversation with the Community, Nothing About Us Without Us. And as mentioned, we do have 3 panelists with us. So we will start with a quick look at the agenda and then get into introductions so we can hear from our panelists. So again, we'll start with those brief introductions right after this. Then we will launch into the panel discussion with some pre-prepared questions. And then finally, we have time at the end for questions from the audience and closing remarks. So here are our 3 fantastic panelists. You may have noticed them pinned on your screen. Want to thank them so much for taking time out of their incredibly busy schedules to join us today and share their wisdom and expertise. So to give you a little bit of a background and introduction, first we have Ricardo Gonzalez Fisher, VDS Manager of Servicio de la Raza, co-CEO Community Clinical Trials Advisory Board Member, and chair of the CCTSI PACT Council. We also have Sharmat Musada with us, who is president and founder of Clinical Trust Solutions, PACT Council, and co-CEO Community Clinical Trials Advisory Board Member. And last but certainly not least, we have Gordon Duvall, lead nurse consultant for the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment's Mobile Health Clinic, and CCTSI Research Community Liaison and COSEAL Community Clinical Trials Advisory Board member. So once again, thank you so much to the three of you. And without any further ado, we will jump into our panel questions. So our first question is, what is your community's perception of CU Anschutz Medical Campus? And what about research broadly?
Jana, can you remind us who the primary panelist answering this question is? And a secondary answer?
Yes, I can. Sorry, just have to. Yeah, there we go. Now we can see your all's wonderful faces as well. So our primary leader for this question is Gordon, with Charmant helping out as a secondary question leader.
So I would say, taking those questions separately, what's your community's perception of CU medical campus? And I go back a long way in the Denver metro area. And so for those that remember the history of CU School of Medicine moving from the 9th and Colorado campus to the Anschutz campus where it is today, there were lots of promises that were made to community at that time. Things that the CU campus was going to do, and many of those promises were not realized. That they were going to serve the community would have access to the medical facilities and to the medical services, and that just didn't come through. Community have felt as if they have a lack of access, that they're not welcome on the campus, that people don't really try to serve the community that's around the campus. It's sad, but the campus sits in a zip code that is one of the 3 least served medically zip codes in the state of Colorado. So that kind of tells you how they didn't come through with what they said that they were going to do. And I don't think that community really feels as if the Anschutz campus is community oriented. We know the Anschutz campus is part of CU School of Medicine, and they do a lot of research, but is that research geared towards the community where it sits? Or is it more geared towards trying to generate NIH dollars that will then fuel the campus, that will then get people to be able to write their papers and move on? I don't think that, so that's kind of what I would say the perception is, that they're really not there to serve the community, but more to serve the campus itself. And then as far as research is concerned, I think that once again, there's a lack of trust that stems from not coming through on the promises that they made, which I guess it's been almost 20 years now that the Anschutz campus has been there, but lots of people still remember where those promises that were made did not come through. And so there's a lack of trust. And because research is connected to the Anschutz campus, that lack of trust flows along with the research. And then I think that also when they do participate, I think that one of the questions from a research standpoint is, what is the personal, i.e., I'm a research participant, what's the benefit to me, but also what's the benefit to my community? And I think that that's one of the things that lacks when we talk about bringing research into community, is that it's all about the data that the researcher wants, but not necessarily what is the benefit to community and to the person themselves that are participating in the research.
Thank you, Gordon. Sharman, is there anything you'd like to add or expand on?
Yes, I want to extend on what Dr. Duval said there. I'm going to bring add into the perspective that I gave by adding another layer, coming as a Black person, as an immigrant, and also as someone who has spent some time in the pharmaceutical industry, and kind of share from my perspective of doing the work with the communities, especially of the what I call the Black diaspora, that is including Black people from South America, the Caribbean islands, and African Americans, and the people from the continent of Africa, which is bigger subpopulation in the US tend to be only narrowed down to the umbrella term of African Americans. The university has its place, but it's too far removed from all these communities. From asking people in the communities what they come to see, the university is a place where you go get education, and that's it. There's no much that they know or understand about the research that the university does to be able to serve the communities. So, which shows that while we're doing the great work of advancing science and medicines, the community or the public at large we're supposed to serve is not really aware of what is the significance and the importance of the research in their real life, in their day-to-day lives, in their family lives and the community lives. When it comes to clinical research, there's also the two things: skepticism first of the mistrust that be built based on the historical fact that people of the African diaspora communities have come to understand about the research being done on communities to them rather than being something that is done to serve them. So they still see the university in that way. But at the same time also, there is a hope with the sense of understanding that the research done at a university advances breakthrough of medicine to help improve the quality of people's life. But however, there is a gap. They don't know how to have access to that breakthrough, to that advanced medicines. So two things: skepticism based on historical fact. At the same time, there's a hope, but they don't know how to engage. They don't know how to have access to the cutting edge medicines. And therefore, it leaves community organizations like us who are doing research to go to that, what I call the Ubuntu philosophy, meaning that those researchers are there because we, the people, are here. Without us, their research doesn't serve anybody. So with us being into the research, we have to be an extension of the institutions, which it calls us to know what the institution does and what it calls the institution to know where the communities are, rather than doing research on communities. We should be doing research with communities to address the health issues and disparities that they face on a daily basis, including clinical trials. So we're bringing the community-centric approach to go to community. That's how you find the people with the health conditions or volunteers we need to be able to do the research. So two aspects: skepticism, the university too far away and removed, the research to come and collect data on us, but the hope that it's there to advance medicine, to serve, to improve the quality of life for everyone through health equity we can all participate in. That's what I wanted to share on that aspect.
Absolutely. Those are amazing points. Thank you both so much for sharing. I will go ahead in the interest of time and share our next question. So our second question is, how can we educate? I'm sorry, this PowerPoint is being excited. There we go. How can we educate community members about being a research participant versus a patient? And we have Ricardo and Gordon answering this question. Ricardo, would you like to start?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you very much for organizing this event and for the interest that everybody is putting into recruiting community members to participate in research. I think this is a very important thing. And I will try to reverse this question And I will try to go to the point of saying, how can we educate researchers or people who are involved in research and understanding what are the desires of the people who are participating in research. And I will talk about this a little bit from the perspective of a community that I serve, which is Hispanic, Latino, mostly recent immigrants or people who have decided to live in a community still based on the traditions that come from their own country. And in talking about this, the differences between being a patient and being a research participant, I can mention three. In a way, when you're a patient, you are seeking professional care, medical care, while you're and the providers are providing care. But when you are a participant in research, you are not receiving care, but well, you are receiving care, but it's more important what you are giving as data. You're giving information, and that information has to be clean. And when I was a clinical research coordinator, we were told that we needed to have very clean data. So we had to ask questions, and questions are yes or no, and we ask the questions, and the participant answers gives us the answers. The second thing that I see is that the interest of the professional relationship with between the provider and the patient is the well-being of the patient based on their health, and talking about the whole definition of health. While when someone is participating in research, their well-being is more focused on safety and avoiding risks that come from research. And I'm just trying to put this in a perspective, because if we are on the research side, well, we're doing what we have to do. But when we are on the patient or on the participant side, perhaps there's something else that we want. And then at the end, like number three, the questions that a provider will receive from a patient are questions that are related to the biopsychosocial, spiritual, liberal, and environmental things that have to be with their health. Well, and they can receive some kind of answers for that. But when we are going to ask questions as a research participant, those have to be focused only on research, and we'll get a lot of I don't know answers, and this is something I cannot reply. So if we understand the perspective of the patient at this point, then perhaps there's a way that we can try to find forms to educate the population and let them know that when they're here in this role, their role is just a participant on a clinical trial. Now, I'm going to come to two more things right there. From a cultural point of view, people who are born and raised and educated in the United States value their autonomy as one of the principal pillars on medical ethics, and this is what we offer them when they come to a clinical trial. You are the one who's going to make certain decisions, and you can, and in every step of the trial, you're going to answer certain questions that are going to help you make a informed decision. When you come from a different country in the world, and I'm not just going to talk Latin America, but certain parts in Europe, people want a more paternalistic approach. So they will ask you, what would you do in my case? And we are trying to say, we cannot give you this answer. So what I'm trying to say with all of this is that if we want to educate people, we have to educate ourselves and trying to understand where they come from and trying to see what we can do without violating a protocol, without creating bias, and try to go and listen where they are. So just to conclude, I think we need to be clear, very clear, and explain these things and these rules of engagement since the beginning. Let them understand that when they're participating here, we're not getting them medical advice. We are talking about a clinical trial that is a very small part of the whole thing that has to do with their health. And the other thing is perhaps we should open certain lines of communication in which we can talk with their provider, or or send those questions to their provider in a way that we become liaisons. So I think that that's where I would answer this question.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. Gordon, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'm thinking, so once we educate community about the difference between being a participant and a patient, and I think if we're totally honest, realizing some of the trust issues the community might have. My question would be, how many would really continue to be a participant in research? And so I think that what's really important is that perhaps researchers need to have an outreach leg for their project that goes into community beforehand to form the relationships with possible participants, and really being able to, one, see what benefit do the participants need in order to be a participant, and try to form their research project around community rather than thinking community's going to form around what their research project is. Because I think that it's really important that, communities that participate in research, especially when you go into some of our marginalized communities that are lacking access to healthcare anyway, might see a research project as a way to be able to get the healthcare that I need. And so I think that if, in fact, what the community needs is providers, somebody that will be my PCP, well, then I think that the research project should try to figure out, how can I at least be able to refer people to be able to have this provider so that they will be more apt to be able to participate in my research. But how would you know that if you don't go into community to form those relationships, to really be able to see what it is that people need? I think that the providers that are needed, the researchers need to try to be able to fill that gap as well. And so, if no more than, like I said, before providing a referral. And so I would suggest that part of that could be done by a team of outreach professionals that go into community, maybe even before the researcher comes in, that will be willing to be able to educate community about not only what the project is, why it might be important for them, be able to identify people within the community that would benefit from the research that's being done. And if there's really not going to be a benefit to community, I think that it's important to voice that as well and let the community be able to have an educated decision as to whether or not they want to be a participant.
Thank you. Those are fantastic points from both of you. And we will go ahead and move on to the next question. So our next question is, what are some recruitment strategies that resonate with your community? So for this question, we will be hearing from Sharma and Ricardo. Sharma, would you like to start? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, I'm going to start. I'm going to give you an example of the project we're doing with the Colorado Department of Public Health. We initiated a project on the COVID where we wanted to go learn from the lived experiences of the community, African diaspora immigrant communities here in Denver metro area, to make sure that we can put a system in place to be able to mobilize these communities or prepare them for future public pandemic events. So we are working with the community, going again, what the philosophy I like from South Africa is called Ubuntu. I am because we are. So we're using that philosophy to go to the community, have the members of the community understand that we're doing this work. It is not for us to collect data, but it is to empower them with the information we will get from the study so that the community themselves can see how their participation was during the COVID, what are the challenges they lived during the COVID, and what can we learn for those to kind of begin to create health profiles for their own communities, or also identify people and leaders in the communities who are part of the effort where the initiative is taken by them, they embrace them, they own it, they take the leadership, and where we're guiding and working with them. So that's one approach where we're getting is rather than just going to do the research to communicate, we have to involve them, let them understand their responsibilities and the role they have to play and the significance. Why are we doing this study within the community? And what are the implications? What are the benefits of that study for their own community? At the same time, we make them understand that the study has the values, a value for the public health department because they need the data about the subgroup of the community so that they also are part of the data that we're collecting. So when we engage communities that way, they are part of the research. They're no longer only for you to come we're tired of doing the survey. They are involved in the survey. They are guiding us even when is the best day, what was the best approach to do the survey or to do the focus group with them. That's some of the strategies. And also in my work, we're finding that these communities have platforms, social media platforms that researchers don't have access to. So when you work with them, your study is being placed by themselves. They try to do the outreach of your study within their own communities. And it doesn't feel strange because now the community takes that ownership and leadership of the effort because it is resonant with themselves. And the other small approaches we're taking where we can engage groups, small group in virtual, what I call virtual roundtables, a group of 5. From that group of 5, we do more, 5 and 5. That's how we get in the community. The people community understand that this is they have a role to play in it, and they identifying. And there's one cultural aspect I want to add that we are leveraging. The people from other countries, especially immigrants, when they come here, they tend to the cultural values that are all they have that keep them together. And from the experience I've lived or seen is when someone dies here in America, for those who come from Africa, we always send the dead body back to Africa. So there is a collective effort to get money to ship that dead body back to Africa. We're trying to change the mindset to say we want to help the people that we love when they're still alive. So one way to helping the people is to make sure that we assisting them when they're sick. We're making sure they have access to healthcare. We're making sure that they know about the research, the clinical trials that are out there. So members of the communities are becoming advocate of the efforts that is there to help them. So clinical research is no longer just an end, a means to an end, but it's become part of them understanding the benefits that this country offers to everyone. I wanted to add that aspect to it.
Thank you. Ricardo?
Yeah, thank you, Charmaine, for saying all of those things, and also thank you, Gordon, because I think that if we're trying to create a strategy to recruit people into clinical research, we just need to create something that should be long-term sustainable and authentic partnerships. And I mean it in the 3 ways. It has to be long-term because some people feel that they just come into their research, they give their information, and then they're on their own. it has to be sustainable in a way that people can still be part of the project or of the community, independently of the ability of the project to keep on funding. And the other thing, it should be authentic. So caring is something that you cannot fake. So when you really care for your community members, when you're really caring, people can see you, can listen to you, and can feel this care in reality. One of the things that we do right now, and I'm really interested in doing this, and we were talking about this last week, it would be very interesting to see where most of the participants in clinical research come from to the University of Colorado Hospital or to Anschutz Medical Center. And you'll find that most of them come from people who are already patients of the system. You will find that most of them, one of a retired or someone, a senior researcher from the university who's now in California told me a couple of years before COVID that it seems that they were looking for their patients in the Polo Club. Those are the words he used. So they are not the representation of the people who live in the state. So if we could translate this and link, as Gordon was saying a while ago, research to care. If we can have this authentic relationship and link research to care, I think we could do this better. And for a lot of people, that this care has to be personal.
Thank you so much. We will go ahead and move on to the next question. So how do we communicate the benefits of research participation in a way that will resonate with your community? And for this question, we have Ricardo and Gordon answering. Ricardo, would you like to start?
I'm going to be brief in this part. Just let you know, our people tend to listen to stories. We like storytelling. It's easier to have storytelling than to give them statistics. It's easier to receive a story than statistics. It's easier to listen to someone telling a story than to even read a brochure or a book. So I would go for storytelling, talk about success stories. I would go to include family as recipient of the benefits. I mean, it is going to help your community, but it's going to help your family. If you have this thing that runs in your family, it may help the next generations for this. And then also have some talk about some tangible benefits that come out of this research, not economic or other thing, but this is working and it's going to help people live lives in a better way because of this. Finally, it would always be good to have a trustworthy provider network that's going to be also disseminating these benefits, and also someone listening to what the community concerns are. Gordon.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, Gordon.
Yeah, thank you, Ricardo. And I'm just going to add on to that just a little bit more and stay on my soapbox of building relationship with community. I think that be it an outreach team or whatever, but we need to take time to learn about the needs of the community. Does the community even have an issue with what you're trying to do your research on? You know, and if so, how could the community benefit, or how is research going to satisfy the need that you found that the community has? And I think that might lead into the storytelling that Ricardo was talking about. You know, I think that it would be important to provide data or proof to start with that this problem exists in the community that you're trying to go into. And once you've shown that there is a problem, show what is the ramifications of that problem. be it short-term or long-term. And then you might need to present how participation in this research project is either going to solve or prevent that problem in the future for a community. You have to be able to show the community what the benefit is going to be, either short-term or long-term, in order for them to want to be a participant. And I think that once again is going to go back down to actually getting to know the community, forming those relationships, taking the time to go out and form those relationships.
Thank you. Those are such excellent points. Sharman, is there anything you want to add? I know you weren't lined up for this question, so it's okay if you don't, but we're doing good on time. So I wanted to give you a chance if there was anything that you wanted to add.
Forming the relationships is the key. The communities, like I said at the beginning, be it the industry sector, the healthcare sector, or the academic sector, have done a great job in advancing medicine. However, the involvement of the communities, they have all struggled to get communities be part of that advancement of medicine for them to see the benefit of the research, the work that's been done. The engaging the communities will require them seeing the benefits. I'll give you an example of one thing I came with speaking with the young people who play soccer here in the Denver metro area. And they're like, it's hard to see you guys. You don't come to the event. They say, no, because you don't know where we are. To see us, you have to come where we are, where we meet. And it's the same thing. Those who do research, I'm speaking this from my own perspective as someone who's been in the industry. We know too much about our industry. We know too much about our work. We know too much about our fields, but we have a little understanding of how our work impacts the communities and what are the perspectives of the communities of the work that we really do. So to get people to be involved in the work we do, they have to see what is in it from them. Be it at a community perspective for immigrants who rely on so much on each other's. There's that community health that they want to see, but there's also the individual health that they want to see. So they want to see the benefit that the study or the research or project bring to the community, but also those who are involved. How are they benefiting from that study or for that research project? And the experience have shown that a lot of projects come and go. Sustaining, maintaining that partnership or relationship with the community is a key. As a matter of fact, I will add this: everyone who is involved in research, you should not start building relationships only when you have a project on the table. You have to begin building relationships with the communities before even you can start writing your proposal. Perhaps building a relationship with the community can even guide you on what kind of proposal you need to do for your research.
Absolutely. Those are such important points. Thank you, all three of you. I'll share my screen again. We just have 2 more prepared questions to get through, and then we will open it up to our audience. So our next question, what are barriers in your community that make people hesitant or resistant to participating in research? And for this question, we have Gordon leading and Charmant providing secondary. So Gordon, would you like to start?
Sure. I think the primary reason centers around lack of trust. Lack of trust, not just for the university, but for the healthcare system as a whole. If we go back and we look at some of the historical atrocities that have gone on within our healthcare system, I mean, you really can't blame people for not having the trust that you would think that that they should have. I think that a lot of people don't necessarily want to be a guinea pig. Practice on somebody else. Do your research on somebody else. I want to benefit from what you find from the research. Not really realizing that in order somebody has to do the research in order for the outcome to come. And I think that a big one is that they don't see a benefit to themselves in doing it. I mean, sadly enough, our society is one of that has come to be a me society. And if it's not something that's going to affect me, well, then I don't necessarily want to be a part of it. And so I think that this can be solved once again with that whole outreach and the building of relationships, going into community to get to know the community, to know what type of things that would benefit them, to know what their needs are, to know what their desires are, I think is very important. And so I know it seems like that we're beating this whole relationship topic to death, but I think that it deserves that because I think that that's where you're going to find success in the research that you're doing. I had the opportunity to work with the Aurora Community Health Clinic when we were talking about building a curriculum for medical students. And one of the things that I brought up in that was that I wanted to create community health workers, not necessarily hospitalists. And I used as a litmus for whether or not we were successful. And that would be, will that researcher stay in the community and be part of that community after their research is over? And if the answer is no, I don't think we did a good job. Because I think a true researcher would have those ties with community, would have those relationships with community, that would be the long-lasting effect to the community. The benefit to the community would be another trusted and dedicated member to their community. So that's kind of all I have along there.
Thank you. Sharman, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes, in addition to the reasons that Dr. Duval mentioned, we keep going to the issue of trust, deeper issues, trust and representation. But I also want to have someone who's been trying to do the work that we call community-led research. There are other reasons from within the communities that the professional world doesn't know. I'm going to share, give an example. As a researcher, the work you do with the community has a long-term impact on other researchers who are going to go to the same community. So however you engage that community, however you do work with that community, if the community didn't perceive it, it was for the best interest, the next researcher will come to do work with that community, you just created more a challenge work from them. Not the community, but the researcher. So there's so much of the educational work that need to be done also on those who conduct the research. I understand the research, the healthcare were not meant to be serving all communities equally. It was meant to be get data and serve a certain, but now with the trend where we are going, understanding the work of diversity and inclusion in clinical trials, even if in addressing health disparities, it is about time where each and every one as a researcher, we educate ourselves, we come to understand that the work we do, it is to make an impact on people's life. The best way I can use to explain that is that see your work on yourself. When we say communities, it's not a group of people sitting somewhere. See yourself as a member of that community and ask yourself a question. If I was one of these people living in these conditions and not having understanding of the research, not understanding the terminologies of the research, someone approaches me to be a participant, how would I react? How would I react? So there's a place where the researchers have to learn, but there's also a place where I call the place of educating the communities, the public at large, to understand what the research is and what is the importance and the role of the research in people's life. One of the things that I think we don't see well is how we don't connect the purpose, the meaning of our research to the people we want them to participate. We want to go quickly and find 2, 3 people. We need 200, 3,000 and get them and be out. But like Dr. Duval said, it has to be that sense of you doing meaningful work that has a lasting impact, and your presence and visibilities in those communities does have not to be a one-time thing. It has to be a continuous thing. We are preaching to the young people from medical school or graduate pharmacy and medical school and other things. You are the emerging leaders. And so what can we do to begin to connect you with some other project at the university where you do work to help the community, but also you begin to understand what the role of research plays in the communities. So there's so much to do that the researchers, it's not that the community people are like don't want to participate, but we, the researchers, we have a lot of work to do to shift our mind in the way we're doing the research before, and now understand that the research has to be done with people within the community. We have to be where they are.
Thank you so much. We have one more pre-prepared question to get to, and then we have a few questions already in the Q&A section from our audience. So we will try to get through this so we can get to all of your questions. Ooh. So this question is asking, how can we ethically engage community members? For example, is there a culturally conscious way for the research community to more accurately convey the responsibilities and expectations of research participation to mitigate participant attrition, resource loss, and scientific integrity? Not this, I know this one's quite long, so I'll leave it up for a second. For this question, we have Charmant leading and Ricardo answering as well. Charmant, do you want to start?
Yes, I will go on that one. And again, it goes back to building the trust-based partnership with the communities. If I could start it that way, in engaging people ethically, in the sense that engagement is the foundation. However, recognizing the values of different perspective, especially when it comes to the culture of the people. Now, when I speak cultures, we tend to get caught into cultures of Black people or white or Asians. Cultures here, I want to say it is you and I, all of us here, we are into a small culture. We're trying to address an issue with a certain way of understanding the issue with a certain language. That's a culture. Each one of us here navigate, will go in and out of multiple cultures in a single day. So as a researcher, when you go to a group that have common interests or shared interests, how do we make ourselves to make sure that we understand how they perceive things from the point of view based on their culture? What is their religion? What are the certain values that we can make sure that we work with them, but being mindful, even if it calls for us to change certain approaches to be able to work with them, what can we do to do that? So it comes down to creating a space for dialogues, being present to those communities. You don't want to create that space by being in the office or on campus. You have to find yourself where these communities are, where the people are, and you create those small dialogues with them. And through those dialogues, we're listening, actively listening to the conversation. You may even pick the term or terminology that is appropriate for that group of people, which is different from the one you brought from the academic world. I know we have the desire to make all our peers to understand what we're saying, but there's a barrier, a language barrier between the scientists and the public in general. At one point, as scientists or researchers, to work with the communities, we have to embrace the language, which is making more sense. It's meaningful to them. How do we incorporate that to our research design or to our approach in a way so that we can engage people effectively and also make sure that we respect their cultures, we value their cultures, and we create that common language, not from academic point of view, but common language we speak with the communities that we're trying to work with.
Thank you so much. Ricardo, would you like to add anything? If technology will allow.
No, there I am. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, so I really was going to say something very similar to what Chamat was saying. I think that researchers or people who are involved in research should understand the cultural values of the people they're working with. Also, make sure that there's not a community issue related to that kind of research. And also understand the literacy level of the people that they're dealing with. It's very important if we're asking someone to sign an informed consent, they need to really understand what they're doing. And sometimes people don't really understand what it means. People need more education in different forms. They need to understand what's the difference, what is the continuum of disease and health. They also need to understand what does healthcare mean. We mentioned in a previous question the difference between healthcare, providing healthcare or being a patient and being a research participant. They need a lot of education in that. They also need education about their own condition, and then why that condition is, why do they need, or why is it good for them to participate in research? And also they need education about what they can expect from the process. One point I want to bring into this is about incentives. The ethical part about incentives, incentivizing people to participate can be a double whammy for people in a way, because people will come and say, well, if it's so good, why are you paying me to participate in this? On the other part, some people say, well, if you don't pay me, I will not participate in this. And it's something that we need to really talk about every time we're going to participate in clinical, in the development of a clinical trial. So this is where I believe that a lot of the ethical issues will happen, not understanding the community, not understanding the level of literacy of the participant, and also the motivation that hopefully is not just to come in to get some extra money.
Thank you so much. In the interest of time, we will jump right into the questions that we have in our Q&A. So I will open this to all of our panelists. Our first question says, I'm wondering about what specific promises weren't kept and how we can fulfill those promises now.
That's for Gordon.
Yeah, I would say that part of the promises that were made was that the Anschutz campus would definitely serve the community around the school, around the campus, that they would have access to the healthcare that they were providing, that it would be affordable for them to provide it. And I think that that's part of course, that's our whole healthcare system, the fact that it costs way too much, not just in Colorado, not just around the Anschutz campus, everywhere. But I think being able to at least address those issues and try to put things in place that would satisfy so that at least those people that live around the campus could have access to care. And that it wouldn't be, especially I think somebody mentioned where research on the campus seems to be more geared towards the Polo Club, that it's more geared towards the hood that's around the Anschutz campus to be able to serve those people.
Thank you so much, Gordon. So our next question says, as a researcher, I've experienced difficulty recruiting research participants in rural areas of Colorado due to lack of transportation, either due to age, physical condition, mental capacity. Is this also an issue for patients who may live closer but could also face the same logistical limitations? I'm seeing some nods.
I would say, yes, it could be. But then once again, as researchers, if in fact your participants can't come to you, how come you can't go to them? I mean, we have mobile clinics, we have mobile almost everything that you can imagine that provides some type of healthcare. And so the question is, does your research need to serve you and your needs and your comfort? Or is it more geared towards the community that you're serving?
I want to add into that, Gordon, to say the traditional model has been is if you go based on healthcare, it's someone is sick, will wait, he'll come to the hospital. But as a researcher, you want to do your work. Or the researchers from the community point of view are perceived as people who have the money, the resources, the power, and how come they who need us to be able to participate in research, what is stopping them from coming to us? Why do we have to be the one going through them? And so that's, I also think it's something that the research or the researchers or the research institutions have begun to think about how to change the way we approach things. If we truly know that the clinical trial we're trying to do, it needs the data, and we know that people are in Fort Collins or some other places, why can't we put the resources and the means to be able to do that work where in that rural environment or area?
Yes, thank you so much. We are almost at time, but we have just 2 more questions, so maybe we'll fit them in. How do you propose connecting with a community you don't personally connect with, i.e. a white person into an African American community?
I'll jump on that one. And I had actually made a note and I wanted to kind of address this. I think that it's important that your research team either looks like or has similar cultures to those of the participants that you're doing research on. And so for a white researcher to find difficulty in going into a predominantly Black community, well, how come you don't have Black researchers on your team? Because people are going to trust and allow people that look like them or are similar to them in some sort of a way. They're going to give them that trust than somebody that doesn't. And so I would suggest that from the whole Anschutz campus standpoint, how come we're not recruiting people that look like the communities into which you're trying to serve?
Yes, that's an excellent point. Thank you so much. We are technically a minute over, so I really appreciate our 3 panelists for sharing their time and expertise with us. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining. The recording will be posted on our workshop website for those of you who weren't able to join or weren't able to stay the entire time. Once again, thank you all so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.